We are back with some Solasta 2 news as we had a development update article from a few days ago giving us info on what to expect from early access. And for those of you that are unaware, Solasta 2 goes into early access on PC, on Steam, on March 12th, so it's coming right up. Console players, you will have to wait for full release, but you will be able to play Solasta 2 eventually. But we also got a live update stream with Tactical Adventures Community Manager Miz, so let's jump right into it, starting with the dev update number 20. The year of adventure is upon us. So what can we expect from early access? Well, we will have access to the character creator and much of the customization that comes with that, of course, appearance included. You will be able to create and customize your full party, your full custom party of 4. So keep in mind that some of these other characters that we've been introduced to, they might be able to join your party as temporary companions, but they're not part of that custom party of 4 that you'll have with you at all times. But do note that if you want to save some time, some people will want to do this for early access as it doesn't really matter that much. There will also be pre-made characters to choose from, with each of them representing each of the early access classes that are available at the time. So you can pretty much just jump right into the game if you don't want to spend time creating a character and doing all that customization stuff. Now, the classes available on early access launch will include the Fighter, Cleric, Wizard, Rogue, Sorcerer, and the Mighty Paladin. So 6 classes in total, but Tactical Adventures does have plans to add more classes as time goes on in early access as they drop these major early access updates. So yeah, something similar to what Larian Studios did with Baldur's Gate 3 in this regards. Now, they are currently aiming at having all 12 D&D 5th edition classes in the game by launch 1.0. So as of now, yes, you can also expect to eventually see the Barbarian, Bard, Druid, Monk, Ranger, and Warlock. But how many of those classes will be released during early access itself? Not entirely sure yet. And yeah, there is still the possibility that all 12 might not make it into 1.0, but according to Tactical Adventures' chosen words here, it seems more likely than not that they all will be present. Also note that more spells will be added into the game as early access progresses, but keep in mind max level is 4 for early access, and it's planned to be 10 for 1.0. Each of these classes for early access as well as version 1.0 is planned to have 2 subclasses each, with the exception of the Cleric class here, as the Cleric will have 3 subclasses. It's going to have the Life domain, so a bit more healing focused, the Oblivion domain, which is more offensive caster focused, I believe, and the Battle Cleric, which is a subclass that will allow your Cleric to be a bit more of a frontline melee fighter, mixed with some Cleric magic. Now, the reason why they're choosing to have 2 subclasses per class, even though there is plenty of opportunity on paper to have way more, is because that is currently what they feel is a manageable amount for the studio to implement that will allow them to also include 12 of those full classes in the game. So if they start focusing on having more subclasses, it might take away from the ability for them to implement all 12 classes. Now, 1 subclass per class is said to be returning from Solasta 1, so one of the 2, but with some balancing tweaks and some other tweaks, of course, while the second subclass is going to be entirely new and exclusive to Solasta 2. Now, keep in mind that even though this game is largely based on 5th edition D&D, the license that Tactical Adventures is using here is limited. So a lot of this is a mix between things that you will recognize, of course, from 5th edition, but there's also a lot of homebrew in here as well, especially when it comes to the subclasses. I have great news for multi-class lovers, as multi-classing will be available right at the start of early access, of course limited to the classes that are available at the time. And Tactical Adventures is going to require you to meet certain attribute scores in order to be able to multi-class into specific classes. For example, if you want to multi-class into the Wizard class, you'll have to have at least a 13 in intelligence, and this is all, of course, for balancing reasons. I should also mention, and this wasn't from the article, but it was briefly mentioned in the live stream, is that Solasta 2 will have both the point buy system for attributes as well as the roll system in the character creation segment. So you can use whatever system that you prefer. Not sure if they're going to have them both for early access or not, but regardless, both will be in 1.0. Now, just like the first game, Solasta 2 will also offer a ton of difficulty customization if you want to get into the weeds here. And so far in early access, we can expect to be able to not only just choose between different set default difficulties, but also customize modifiers for allies and enemies alike for attack rolls, ability checks, and saving throws. And there's also a karmic dice option for those of you who hate the idea of rolling critical failures multiple times in a row. And there's a toggle for loaded damage and healing dice, which makes them more advantageous for your party if you toggle that on. Those are the options at the start of early access, so there's likely a lot more to come. And if all of that confuses you, just go with a set difficulty that sets all of this for you. That's actually recommended for most. I should also mention that yes, you will see that there is going to be a hide helmet feature right on the launch of early access. On top of character appearance customization, class and stats customization, early access will also feature 4 ancestries, which is your race choice, and these consist of human, elf, dwarf, and halfling. They do have plans to add more races as early access goes on, and of course have more for 1.0, but they're not making any specific promises here. Although I will say it seems like they have their minds and their eyes on half-elf and tieflings more so than some other races, so I think those two are more likely to happen than maybe some of the other ones. But yeah, more races are coming. Now, as far as content and length of early access goes, at launch of early access, we'll be getting access to a portion of Act 1 of the game, and Tactical Adventures estimates that this will take most players between 10 to 15 hours to complete for a single run. Do keep in mind, though, that what you encounter in early access, such as opponents and certain challenges, all of this is subject to change as time goes on, as it's going to be fine-tuned, etc. And of course, that's one of the reasons for early access. And they do plan on adding more monsters than what we'll see in early access alone at launch. And like early access for most games, there's going to be some features that are not going to be present on the launch of early access. Most notably, multiplayer will not be there right away. However, they are planning on adding it as early as possible to early access. And then, of course, some of you who played Solasta 1 may remember mechanics such as the fly mechanic. It was pretty fun. Well, at the launch of early access, a true flight mechanic will not be in the game. There's going to be little things like that that you'll notice. And then there'll be missing quests and locations, and several quality of life features may not be present either at the start. But don't worry that much, as a lot of this will be added as time goes on. And of course, the devs encourage anyone who plays early access to give feedback. So, you know, if there's something that you want to be in the game, and even if you think they're already going to add it, you might as well just let them know on their forums or on their Discord server or in videos, etc. Now, the rest of the article gives some more information on a few of the announced cast members for the game, which was a big announcement last month. I already mostly talked about this, but of course we have Deborah Wild, likely most known as Lae'zel, and she is playing as Deorcus, one of your siblings. Ben Starr, who was Verso and Clive and many other notable roles in the game industry, is playing as Ricard, also one of your siblings. Amelia Tyler has played many roles in the past, such as Baldur's Gate 3's narrator, and she is the game's supposed villain named Shadwin. And Ellen Thomas, who was in Arcane, is playing as an elf named Anabasia, I believe. I'll have a link to this article down below if you want to read each of these passages here. But regardless, we have a great cast here, and it's absolutely amazing to see Tactical Adventures, you know, still a really small studio. I think they're at 35 developers right now, being able to pull in such powerhouses from the video gaming acting industry. And this brings us to the development update live stream, which was just about 2 hours long of basically a Q&A. So what I did here was I just took notes on anything that I thought was notable, and I'm just going to kind of rapid fire off the information for you so you can get some quick facts and, I don't know, cool stuff. Do note that the gameplay that you're seeing right now is from a demo that came out a long time ago, so, you know, don't judge it too harshly. This isn't the current version of the game. This was a while ago. So anyways, romance, yes, they have discussed it, but due to the nature of the game, you know, 4 custom companions that you're role-playing yourself, Tactical Adventures, you know, feels it's a bit harder to do romance in a quality way when compared to most other party-based RPGs that actually have these full-on companions with personalities and backstories. etc. But also keep in mind, this is a game about siblings. Although they are orphans, it still makes it kind of weird, you could say. So yeah, Miz actually said short term that they're thinking no to romance, but I would personally also guess myself from the way it sounds, it's probably just not going to happen in Solasta 2, maybe next time around for Tactical Adventures. We learned that gold will be shared by all party members, so no need to shuffle it around between companions when at a shop, etc. Point and click, WASD, and gamepad support will all be in the game in early access. And actually, if you want to switch to gamepad, for example, it's seamless. All you do is have to just click one button. You don't have to actually go into the menu and change things around. Early access is currently planning on lasting about a year or so, but that of course can certainly change. And they even said if early access is super successful, they might actually use the extra resources to add even more to the game, which would of course naturally extend the time. Early access is said to have crafting items in it that you'll be picking up, but don't expect the crafting systems right away. They'll come a bit later. Also, those of you who have played the first game, the scavenging system will be returning to Solasta 2. And this is a system where you basically pay a small fee for a faction to automatically gather up the loot that you leave behind on a map. So you don't have to carry it yourself, but this system will not be in early access at the start. And on to the topic of inventory and encumbrance. So encumbrance is a topic of debate quite a lot with a lot of studios. And in Solasta 2, the idea as of right now is to have an option that is the rules as written, the 2024 D&D 5th edition rules, to where the amount of weight that a character can carry is their strength score times 12. I think that's what Miz said. I might be getting the number wrong. With no weight penalties at all, as long as you are under the max level. However, Miz did also say that they may include an option for different levels of encumbrance penalties. You know, if you're like lightly encumbered or medium encumbered, they still might include that. But right now, that's not part of that system. And they also said that they will likely be offering a no encumbrance limit option, which, yes, of course, would be optional, and you probably have to toggle that on in your settings. As far as inventory management goes, there will be different categories that you can click on to see different types of items and group them up together in your bag, such as, you know, weapons category, magical item category, quest item category, etc. But they're also considering adding a sort by feature that lets you sort by weight, value, and so on. Hopefully they do get to do that because that's a very useful feature. Also note that dragging and dropping items into other characters' inventories or into a shop menu, etc., will be a feature in this game. And actually, Miz showed us this really interesting transfer item interface where if you're moving a potion, for example, to another character, you can actually see how many potions the other character already has in their inventory. You can see the rest of your party members and how many potions they have, making it easier for you to know who to send a potion to, you know, who needs one in their bag. Like every monthly update, somebody asked about the Dungeon Master mode, and the answer, as always, is that they are looking into it, but no promises. It's certainly not a focus of the team at the moment, but it's not out of the picture. Solasta 2 will be playable on the Steam Deck at the launch of Early Access, but initially it will likely not be super optimized. Performance might be kind of rough, but it should still be playable. By the time 1.0 comes around, though, Tactical Adventure's goal is to be Steam Deck verified. Now, someone asked why they switched from the Unity engine from the first Solasta to Unreal Engine 5 for Solasta 2. And it says that there's many reasons for it and gave a few examples. One of the reasons was because of the business model change of Unity, which apparently wasn't really developer friendly, so that got them looking to switch to a different engine. And then they gave Unreal a try, tested it out, and liked it, even though this does cause them to have to rework a lot of the foundation of Solasta 1 that would have carried over to the second game. They could have reused a bunch of those assets and systems and stuff. Well, they looked at it as a good thing to have to redo a bunch of this stuff because it forces them to make a better, higher quality foundation, especially when it comes to character models, for example. Solasta 2 will feature both random loot as well as set loot, so random encounters, who knows what loot you might get, but you know, certain bosses, etc., will always drop specific magic or rare items or weapons. Solasta 2 will feature more non-dialogue skill checks than Solasta 1 did, in fact a lot more, and much of this is due to the New World map travel system where checks will be going off all the time, especially at events. And if you don't know what events are or what the world map travel system is, just watch my previous Solasta 2 videos, as they're all in a single playlist and we go into depth on some of these topics. On a similar subject, Miz told us not to expect a bunch of utility spells like we have in a game like Baldur's Gate 3, such as using Mage Hand to unlock a door or something like that. And the reason for this is that they just don't have the resources to create a game with that much in it just yet, but hopefully one day in the future. Throwing weapons will be a bit different from Solasta 1. Their idea as of right now is that if a weapon is a throwing weapon, that's its use. It will be a throwing weapon and can't be used for melee. And when you acquire or buy a throwing weapon, it can be used infinitely. For example, if you buy a throwing axe from a vendor, you only have to buy one and you basically have unlimited ammo, is one way you could put it. But the price for that one throwing weapon, however, seems like it might be a bit higher than in a previous system where you would buy, one individual axe, but you'd have to buy like 20 of them. In this game, when you buy the one axe, it's going to be a heftier price than in the previous game, where an individual axe was only one-time use, and of course it would be cheaper. There will be plenty of homebrew magical items in Solasta 2, which is great to hear. Characters in dialogue are said to have more than one response available to choose from, typically. So now you're able to, for example, use your high charisma character more often in dialogue. In the first game, there were options to choose from in dialogue, but it was typically choosing one of 4 options, with each option being a response from one of your 4 companions. Well, each companion is said to at least sometimes have more dialogue options now, so you're going to have more versatility in your choice and be able to use that higher charisma character more often. On the world map, there will be a few timed optional events that do require you to move your party in forced march mode if you want to reach the event in time. So these are timed events, and in a way, at least getting to the event, you have to get there by a certain time, otherwise you'll miss out on the event. And the reason for this is to add in some optional risk reward for a few things in the game. This is of course very optional, and it's mostly random type content, so it's not a huge deal if you decide not to go on one. But if you do want to reach a event that has a timer behind it, you have to enter into forced march mode and take the risk associated with that to get to the event. But you certainly don't have to either. And lastly, as of right now, the studio is leaning on the most likely to include a dye system. So you can dye your armor or cloth, etc. Initially, this was actually a no, and then they moved into the maybe category. Now it's a probably yes. At least that's the way I took it. Thank you all so much for watching. Much more Solasta 2 content to come. I will be playing the early access on March 12th and doing some content on this game as it progresses to launch and beyond. It's pretty excited for this one. They're really stepping up their game from Solasta 1, which was already an indie gem. I'll catch you all on the next one.